everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be my review of the Season 2 premiere of Peacemaker. Now there could be spoilers here throughout for this episode and also the first season of the show, so just beware when going to this overall video, and you can check out my thoughts on the first season within the channel, and I'll leave some links within the description. So Season 2 then continues the adventures of Chris Smith, the paid mercenary for hire, first seen in the Suicide Squad movie back in 2021. After losing a fight against Bloodsport, he recovers from his injuries, and the first season saw him recruited by the secret government team known as Argus to help combat an alien invasion of butterflies. The finale of Season 1 saw Chris defeat the growing butterflies as they plan to conquer Earth. The Justice League, or what we assume are them, arrive on the scene afterwards. We see the corrupt activities of Amanda Waller and Task Force X exposed to the world, and Chris reflects on his future life after killing his villainous father. Now, Season 2 picks up right after those events, dealing with the fallout of the exposure of the government activities. We saw the influence of Amanda Waller still very much intent, as we see the former members of Argus dispersed or unemployed, minus Economics, who manages to retain his position. We see that Chris is being under surveillance by the new Argus director, Rick Flag Sr., who we saw in the Superman movie, who is also well aware that Peacemaker killed his son in the Suicide Squad film. We see later that Chris is still disillusioned by not being the hero that he wants to be, and he applies for a position within the Justice Gang, again seen from the Superman movie, but his interview is rejected. And as mentioned, we saw the other members disbanded, whether it's Harcourt going on a complete path of self-destruction after being rejected from several agencies for her violent tendencies. We see her in a therapy type obsession, being diagnosed with supposed toxic masculinity. We see that Adebayo is just living life, wasting away in a quiet, broken down apartment. Now later on, we see Chris entering a pocket universe of some sorts when he sees an alternate vision of his father and brother who is still alive. If you remember from the first season, his brother died, which I believe it was a baseball game or outdoor activity. And we see a very much cozy family life between all three of them. And Chris is very much disillusioned as what's going on in front of him. It's also revealed that both he and Harcourt had a serious relationship. And then the episode ends with Chris fighting and defeating a doppelganger version of himself, dropping hints at what we will see later on down the line in terms of the implications of this other alternate universe. Now, in terms of Peacemaker Season 1, I really wasn't a fan of it. I really didn't have any favour towards the flippant, juvenile tone, the R-rated humour and shtick and wacky narrative. And Season 2 very much doubled down in that style, and if you thought that James Gunn was untethered and unchecked with his Superman movie, well, this series is him fully let off the leash. Once more, we get the usual slapdash of R-rated violence, sex and nudity and vulgarity that you'd expect from James Gunn. A lot of the humour for me is over the top and unnecessary, whether it's the extended orgy scene at Chris's house, where at first I felt he was imagining it all, whether he was under some sort of drug hallucination, but apparently it's something that happens for real. We had Harcourt's very overextended brawl in a bar, where despite a very stunning Jennifer Holland, who is always great to look at, it's completely implausible to take seriously that she could beat down multiple men who are twice, maybe three times the size of her. Now, we do understand that Harcourt has some expert fighting skills, but again, in a setting like this, it is just really hard to take seriously. Now, for all of the antics that went on throughout this episode, it really did seem to drag longer than its 44-minute runtime. And once more, your overall enjoyment is really going to be down to your own preference in terms of the tone and whether you are a fan of James Gunn's style and sensibility. And if you are somebody who likes that tone, then more power to you. This isn't me trying to criticize anybody, but it's just hard to watch. It just feels more of the same of that teenage, degenerate, immature, cartoonish type of storytelling that for me personally, I just don't find very appealing. Now, some people will criticize me and say, how can you criticize Peacemaker but yet show a lot of favour to The Boys? And it's true that with The Boys also you get a lot of R-rated nudity, and you'd have the same juvenile type of sensibility, albeit in much more smaller moments than I would say with Peacemaker. But the difference is that with The Boys, there is much more of an interesting concept. There is a serious intent. There is far more depth in terms of the characterization. And whilst a lot of the subtext and commentary is very on the nose, at least there is an interesting angle, material that you can find a lot more engaging, or at the very least interesting, to go alongside the more R-rated graphic violence and sex scenes. But we get none of that depth here with Peacemaker. It is for the most part a juvenile cartoon. Your interest or your desire, or let's say your tolerance level, can only be stretched so far before you end up becoming very bored and nonplussed about what's going on. And sadly, that's what I felt within this first episode. Perhaps the two most interesting aspects were indeed the cosmic universe. When we initially saw this in the trailers for this series, I felt that James Gunn was going to use that, and also the pocket dimensional technology that we saw within the Superman movie, as a way to kind of erase finally any ties within the Snyderverse. If you remember, at the end of the Peacemaker season 1, the Justice League Snyderverse characters showed up at the end in silhouette form. We only saw Ezra Miller's Flash and also Jason Momoa's Aquaman conversing at the end. And I suppose there is some sort of interesting elements to see how we will get an alternate version of other characters, we assume, throughout the rest of the season, and that could have some potential if again developed correctly. But also at the same time, when you are dealing with pocket dimensions and technology, as what we saw with Superman and how messy that was, and that was in much more of a family-friendly, toned story to an extent. When you have those sort of elements in this much more outlandish and very much overwrought type of material, then it does have potential also to be an absolute mess. Now, I'm sure the big point of contention, especially with the Snyder fans, was the apparent retconning of the entire universe here. So as I mentioned, the Justice League originally showed up at the end of the season 1 finale. Well, during the recap of this episode, we see that it is indeed the Justice Gang and not Zack Snyder's Justice League. We see throughout the episode the appearance of Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner and also Isabella McCard's Hawkgirl, as well as Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord. In the interviewing scene, very elongated sequence where they're interviewing Chris. Again, for me, the jokes and the humour didn't land, but that's down to your preference once more. And I'm not sure whether this was James Gunn just being flippant or actually seriously trolling the Snyder fans, or just genuinely want to announce this as his own individual universe. But overall, I don't think it was a great choice unless you clearly provide some explanation as to what's going on. We do ask the question again as to whether anybody really cares. The first season of Peacemaker 1, whilst gaining some good positive reception, didn't exactly set the world alight. It wasn't exactly that water cooler show that more mainstream audiences could really get into. So would you really be as bothered about whether it's the Justice League from the Snyderverse or the Justice Gang from the Superman film? I'm not really too sure. It didn't really play that much of an impact throughout this entire episode overall. So there's my thoughts and original feelings on the Season 2 premiere of Peacemaker. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other topics with the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.